Welcome back to Built Fabrications. Today we are going to be removing the front clip off of this 1970 Chevy Monte Carlo, and then we are going to be yanking out that old engine and transmission. It's a 350 with the turbo 350 transmission. We're going to be getting that pulled out so we could dive deeper into this and eventually get it set up for our LS swap. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now the first thing that we're going to want to pull off is our front bumper. To do that, we've got a couple bolts to undo. We're going to take it off of the brackets off of the frame as opposed to undoing the brackets from the bumper itself. And then we'll undo the lights, and let me go ahead and show you where those are. You should just have two bolts. You have one in the rear and then you have one here in the front. Undo that, both sides, and then you should just be able to undo your wiring, pull out the bulb for your fog lights and turn signals. Actually, it's just turn signals and running lights, and then you should be good to get that pulled off. So let me go ahead and get those pulled out. All right, so we got the two bolts out on either side for the bumper. So 4 bolts in total, and plus the two turn signals, which are here and here. The next thing that we want to move on to is taking off our headlight assembly, whatever you want to call that. It's a little weird, and another note to make, the 70s are different from the 71 and the 72, although they look very similar. The way they mount, the fenders are different, the radiator's different, I guess, the mounts for it, the radiator core support, I should say. So anyways, I do have a spare one of these. I've not worked on a 71 or a 72. I would imagine it's probably pretty similar, but slightly different. So first thing we want to do is take out our trim piece here for our headlight, which would be the 2 screws here. And then if you can see it on camera, there should be 2 screws. I don't know if they filled these in because they're small screws on this or what, but you have the 2 screws on the bottom, and then there will be right up here on the top, 1 bolt that holds it down there, and it clips like this. So after you take that out, and the 2 on the front, as well as the trim ring, I am assuming that it should just pop up and you can remove it. And then you have this bracket here on the back that is held in with 2 bolts. So I'm gonna get this pulled off and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, so I got these taken off. I ended up having a little bit different scenario on mine, headlight things, whatever you want to call it. Fender extensions, I think is what they're actually called. You should have a bolt here for the bracket that I showed on the other one, and then also one here. However, for me, I guess someone had lost this bolt, so they drilled a new one above it, a new hole, and just put some random hardware in there. So that threw me off for a little bit, but I got it figured out. So that's all pulled out. I did both sides. One other thing I did do that might look like a big thing, but I promise you it's not, is I pulled out the radiator. Really no big deal. I just undid the 4 bolts here on the top, drained the coolant. You have that cover plate that just holds it. Popped off the upper and lower radiator hoses and the 2 hard lines for the transcooler that goes through that radiator, and it slid right out. And then I took the fan shroud out with it too. And that's, I slid it back and I slid it out. So didn't miss anything, but it does look like a big difference. Big chunk there is done. So, all right, so the next thing I'm gonna move on to doing is pulling the fender. I've been going back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to take out the wheel well liner at the same time as the fender and just leave them connected or not. I think I might just take the fender off. I might revise that plan again for the 50th time. But we should have the 2 bolts here in the front, which goes to the bracket on this front core support. 2 bolts here on the top. I would imagine you got 1 bolt. Let me try to get you in focus. You got 1 bolt here for the bottom fender going to the support bracket. I might actually take it off on this end here and bring that off of the fender. Again, might change that as I go, depending on how smooth that's going. So that, I think, should be good for the front. Since I'm taking off the wheel well liner separately, I think I can leave all that together. I should have to take out the 2 bolts in the top. So that's these 2 guys here, 1 and 2. Undo all these bolts, 1 at the bottom, and then going up around. And then what else? Going up here in the top, I know I got one here. And then there's a brace. It's a little hard to see, but it runs right through here. We'll undo that. Moving underneath, we've got 2 bolts here. 1 here and 1 there for the rear fender lower bottom thing. That's a mouthful. And then I think it's just 1 inside the door when we get that opened up. Start opening that nice and easy. I know there's 1 on the top, right in there. Try to get a better angle. Right here. I don't think there's 1 on the bottom, but I will obviously definitely take a look and see. You're probably gonna have some shims, so be mindful of where those are and how many, so you can put them back in the same spot that they came out of. Right side is out. So went pretty smooth. I did take it out in 2 pieces, but obviously I pulled the wheel well liner 2. I just, like I said, 2 pieces seemed to be a good way to do it. Either way, I think would be just fine. It's only a couple different bolts, or a couple more bolts difference. I think there's 4 in the front that go straight up into this, and then 2 in the back. So whatever your preference is. All right, so I think now I'll probably start a time lapse and jump on this side, so that way you can see me doing that if you care. Hopefully you do, that's why you're watching. And then after we get this side off, we'll remove this front core support and grill and all that in the assembly that you see it. With both fenders off, the last thing we need to do is pull off our core support assembly. We just should need to undo the 2 front body mounts to do that. I did already take off the wiring and just rolled it up and set it out of the way. I am planning on doing new wiring in the car, but simple stuff, just unplugged this in the grounds. It ran across the front. There's a couple clips like this that it runs through. Undid that, came out real simple. And yeah, so let me pull these 2 bolts out, 1 there and 1 there, and then we'll be moving on to snatching that guy out. Got that off, and I got the engine pretty much prepped to pull. There's really not much to undo. Undid the power steering hoses and throttle cable linkage, power to the distributor, HEI. It was converted to an HEI distributor, so you just have the 12-volt supply, and just got everything out of the way. So the next step is to get this car raised up. I do plan on taking the engine and the transmission out as one, so I'll get this lifted up to undo the exhaust, undo the linkage for the shifter. I would imagine there's a speedometer cable to undo at the transmission. That should mostly be it. I'd like to drain it so I don't make a huge mess on the floor. Not that it'd be any different from what I've currently got. And yeah, we'll undo the transmission mounts and get this thing pulled. I got everything disconnected. Exhaust is out the whole length. I pulled the drive shaft. I ended up not draining the transmission. I just put a bag over the end. I think honestly it's been leaking enough that it's low enough that it's not going to be, hopefully not a huge deal. And then I undid the shift column shift linkage for the transmission. It was just a little pin here, pulled that out, pushed the arm forward, slid it out over there, and that's it. So that's that over there. So, and then I unbolted the transmission mount for the cross member, and I did the speedometer cable that just unscrewed here and pulled it straight out. So we should be in good shape to get this pulled out. Just lower it down. I think I'm gonna try to leave the headers on. I believe that hopefully I have enough room to come out. If not, I'll pull them whenever we're yanking it. Hopefully it shouldn't be too big of a deal to get to those. So, all right, let's get this thing lowered back on the ground and get to snatching. All right, well, evidently I made a few bad decisions on that one. Bag was a bad idea, should have drained that, because now there's a massive pile of transmission fluid all over my floor, and I'm fresh out of kitty litter, so that's cool. Don't strap it like this. It's not that good. Put that on the list. I should have taken the headers off, because honestly that's what was funny to me the most, because I had to get it high enough to get the long tube header part over this cross member. Otherwise it would have been fine, to be honest. And so that was a bad idea. A lot of bad ideas. So just because the moral is just because you can does not mean you should. And you shouldn't do this. But it's out. Do with that as you will. All right, guys, I think this is a perfect time to cut off the video. It's out, front clip's off, got more to come in the future. Thank you guys all for watching. You guys get outside, be wrenching on something, piss off your neighbors, disappoint your mom, and until next time, keep on keeping on.
You can see the riding on the pavement, young kids that growing up in basements, online a whole new generation, I'ma make mine so you better go take it. Always they need a new replacement, decentralized can't contain it, we're changing lives, yeah, upgrading, call it suicide of the older generation. What keeps you up at night, yeah, make all the demons quiet.